guys, this is Christy Fulk with Create with Christy. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the U.S. Well, I'm back with another one of my 12 weeks of fall and Halloween projects. This is week number 3. So we're halfway, when this is over, we're halfway through the Halloween projects. And I'm using the Tricks and Treats bundle. Again, I used that last week. And you can find a link to that video down below, or I'll have it pop up here in the top right of the screen. But I wanted to show you, and I said last week when I did that project, that I will make a bag using the bag die that's in the set. So this is super easy to make since the die is what makes the bag. And there is a really neat way to make a little zigzag border along the top too. So if you'd like to make this along with me, look down in the video description below and click on that blog post link, and you'll find the dimensions for the cards, the paper, and the supply list, and get all your stuff together and come back and make it with me. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first off, I want to show you what stamps and dies we need. I'm using the dies and the stamp set that are part of the Tricks and Treats bundle. You can purchase these two separately, but if you buy them together as the bundle, you save 10%, so it's a really good deal. Now with the stamps, what I'm going to use the Haunted House. I'm going to use the little tombstones right here, and I'm also going to use the bats. And then here, the dies are actually 2 pages worth of dies. Need this big bag die because I'm going to be making that bag. I'm going to use this zigzag right here. And the neat thing, there are 2 sets of holes. Now, when I made mine, I'm going to bring my first one back in at the end of the video. But I use the big ones, and the ribbon I'm using actually is, I think, is going to be better with the little holes. So I'm going to grab the one with the little holes too. And then I'm also going to need the Haunted House and the Boo. Okay, first off, I'm going to start with a piece of basic white. This is a 4-inch by 3-inch piece. And I'm going to use my 2-inch circle punch. And I'm going to punch this out first. I'm going to be doing some stamping on here, but it's a lot better if I punch out the top right corner, or it can be just one of the corners, doesn't matter. I'm going to do the top right corner. And then now I know what I've got left that I can do my stamping on. So I'm going to grab the Haunted House. And I'm going to use my basic gray ink pad. Get this inked up really good. Now, I originally had used my tuxedo black memento pad, and it just didn't cover this very well. I think when it's a big solid image like this one, sometimes it's hard to get a really good image with the tuxedo black. It can be done, but it does take a little work. But with our classic ones, it does a lot better. Let me show you the black one that I did. And this was the best one I could get. It's got little white holes in it. This is a little better image, the one on the right with the gray. I still kind of like it if it's a little, almost looks worn a little bit. Haunted House should look a little worn. But I like the look of the basic gray better anyway. So I'm going to put that to the side. And then I'm going to grab the tombstones. And I'm going to use markers. I'm going to be using the Granny Apple Green. This is from the Brights collection. Cajun Craze, that's from the Regals collection. And then Starry Sky, which is from the 2022 to 2024 in colors. So this one right here, I decided to do, I'm going to do the middle one first. That's right. I figured that this is a little easier to do the middle one first, because then I don't have to worry about getting ink on my fingers because I'm touching the end tombstones. So I'm going to do this, and I'm okay. Sometimes with markers, you get the lined look. I kind of like it with the tombstones. It gives them more of a rough look that a tombstone should have. But I know they're usually not colors, but I wanted to add some color to my bag. Now I'm going to use the Starry Sky for this one. So I'm going to cover this one up. Now you cannot use Stampin' Blends for the to ink up your stamps, because that's alcohol based and it just won't work. They dry super fast and you just can't stamp with those. These are water based or Stampin' Right markers, so they are perfect for doing this technique. Okay, now I can tell that those kind of, the first 2 kind of bubbled up on me, so we're going to do them real quick. I'm okay with that look a little bit, but not that much. That was a little too much. And I'll just stamp this one down here because I'm going to be fussy cutting those out because there aren't any dies for that. But as you can see, I like the lines in that. I just think it makes it look more like a real tombstone, except for the color, of course. So that is all the stamping that we need to do except for the bats, and that we need to do after we die cut some things. So let's go ahead and grab the die cutting machine, and we'll get going on this bag. Okay, to get this Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine ready for die cutting, I've got the big base platform number 1, and then die plate number 2, and a standard cutting plate number 3. And then I want 2 pieces of the Them Bones DSP. This is the one that I picked out. This is what the other side looks like. So there are 2 pieces because you need 2 die cuts for the bag. So both of them are 4 3/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And I wanted my little skeletons to be upright. So what you need to remember is that the 5 1/4 is the top and the bottom. You want this to be like this. Okay, the shorter to be the width and the longer to be the length. Okay, so I'm going to put this down. I know I want them to be upright, so here is the top of the bag. This one does the little tabs at the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit of an angle because it die cuts better if you put a corner in first, and it doesn't do all that crackling and stuff too. And it helps not warp your big die. Sometimes with big dies, if you put one of the straight long edges in first, it might start warping it. But if you have it gradually go in corner first, it does a lot better. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but it's got all the little scoring lines for me, so I don't have to do any measuring for that. So I'm going to hurry up and die cut the next piece. Okay, now I need to die cut the house. Oh, actually, I could do more in the bag. Let's go ahead and get the house done now that I've got it out. We'll bring the bag pieces back in just a minute. So there's the haunted house die. Get that centered in the opening of the die. And with our dies, make sure there's not a little white border around it. You want it to go wrap around the image. You don't have to worry about leaving a border around it. Run this through. And we have our little haunted house ready to go. Oh, and if you're new to my videos, this is called Post-it tape. You can also use the adhesive part of Post-it notes if you got some of those. It just works a lot better because it holds the die in place, but you're able to take it off the cardstock without ripping it. A lot better. Washi tape will work, but sometimes that even tears up your paper sometimes. So that's why I'm using my Post-it note tape. Okay, now I learned some things when I made my first one. I want to do the zigzag on top, but it's a lot easier if you stack these up. I don't know if you can do this with cardstock because it's a little thicker, but with a designer series paper, you definitely can because it's thinner. I think it'll still work with the cardstock. I'm stacking these up perfectly, lining them up. I'm going to leave this like this because it's better when you do a length of a die to have the shorter end go in first, okay? Now, this side does not cut. Only the zigzag part cuts. So that way, I can put this down. I want the straight edge down. And I can make this a shorter bag if I want to. You can make it whatever height you want it to be. But you want to make sure that the side without the blade, which is the straight end, is the one that's on the bottom. Okay? But I'm going to be doing this right along here. I'm going to kind of line this up, make sure it's straight. I'm bringing it down just a little bit, but not a ton. Making sure that paper is still lined up. I'm going to put some tape on both ends. I'm going to grab this here. We'll run this through. And then we can take this off and we'll have a nice zigzag border, and it's going to line up, but they're both going to line up. So I know that both of these pieces are going to be the same height. I did them separately on my first one, and I was able to get it pretty close. That looks fine, but this is a lot easier. Now I definitely know I've got it straight. Now I've still got these together. I'm going to keep them together. Actually, when you die cut them, they actually kind of stick together, which is nice. And I'm going to grab these holes right here. And you can see this, hopefully you can see this. There's a score line here and there's a score line right here. I'm going to bring this down and center this in between, bringing it down so it's not all the way to the top, because I don't want the ribbon to tear through. So you don't want to make it too close up here because your ribbon might end up tearing the top. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And I'm centering both ends between these score lines. And that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to, I kind of moved it a little bit. Put a piece of tape here and a piece of tape here. Put this on, making sure the bag is still right on top of each other, and I can tell it is. And I'm going to run this through a couple times just to make sure I got those holes good. I didn't have any trouble with the bigger holes, but the little one I want to make sure. I haven't used this die. Oh yeah, it works fine. Oh yeah, these holes are going to be a lot better. Get this off. There we go. So now I've got the holes and they're in the same spot too. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot about my boo. This is a piece of basic black that's 1 3/4 by 1. I could have done this when I did the haunted house, but that's okay. No big deal. So I'm going to put my boo right there in the center. I'm not going to worry about putting tape on there just as long as it stays on the cardstock, because I'm going to be throwing the negative part away anyway, so it doesn't matter. I definitely use tape when it's a stamped image. And now we've got this really neat boo. Very cute. Okay, let's go ahead and finish this bag. Okay, I'm bringing back my little tombstones here. And I'm not worrying about cutting them perfectly. I could do just 3 separate ones, but I kind of want them to stay stuck together. That gives me less little pieces to lose. It's a little easier to attach it this way too. So I'm just going around it. I'm moving the paper more than I am the scissors, because that helps you get a better cut. It's not so choppy when you do it this way. And then when the scissors need to be opened up again, I just stop moving the cardstock, open up the scissors again, and then start moving the paper again. So I'm just slowly bringing the scissors down to cut. I almost cut that tombstone off, but like I said, I want to keep it in one piece. But if you would rather be able to kind of spread them around, because that would actually look cute too, if you want to spread them around on the bag. I decided to keep mine together, but if you definitely want to spread them around, you could cut these and make 3 separate tombstones and add them on that way. So I'm just going to keep going until it's all cut. Okay, there we go. Still got them together. So there are my tombstones. And now I want to grab that circle that I punched out earlier. And what I could do, this is going to be a moon. I could have just punched it out, with crushed curry cardstock, but I wanted this to look a little more eerie for Halloween. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab crushed curry ink, and I'm going to grab my blending brush, get some ink on here, and I really want the outside to be darker than the inside. So I'm going to start on the outside, doing little circular motions, and then lightly kind of go in a little bit, because like I said, I want the outside to be a little darker. This is darker, this isn't, so I'm going to start over here, start getting this dark again, and come in. Darker, and come in. Now I think I probably have enough on the inside, because I kind of like that little being a little faded. It kind of looks like there might be like a little bit of a cloud. You know how when you look at the moon, it's not just a bright yellow like the cardstock would have been. So I'm going to just do the edges now, because I want the edges to be darker. And if I want to darken up the inside a little bit, I can. It's like if I get the outside just a little bit too dark, which I kind of did, I'm going to kind of put a little bit more yellow, but I'm doing it very lightly because don't want it to be dark. And I think that looks pretty good. So there's my moon. I'm going to put that to the side. Let's go ahead and close this up here. And we can start putting the bag together a little bit, but what I'm going to do first, now this is another thing I figured out when I was making this card. Bag. I keep saying cards. I'm used to making cards. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my silicone mat here. And I think it's easier to use multi-purpose glue to put these together. So what I'm going to do, first let's burnish them. Burnishing means to fold the score lines. So I got that. So I'm going to grab my bone folder. This makes it so it's a lot easier to put it together. You don't want these not folded when you start putting it together, because then they're kind of hard. Because when you first bring it down, it's more curved than really folded. So you always want to burnish when you make a bag the score lines before you start putting it together. So that one's done. So let's do the second piece. Okay, everything has been burnished. Kind of flatten them out a little bit again. And what I'm going to do, this little tab here, there's a score line right here. You can kind of see a little better now with it folded. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take my multi-purpose glue, and I'm going to put some just on this tab, the whole length of it. You could use tear and tape or Seal Plus, but sometimes with bags it's kind of nice to do the glue, because if it doesn't line up right before it dries, you can kind of scoot the paper around a little bit and get it in place. So I'm making sure I definitely get these score lines down here lined up. Let me put this down, then you'll understand here in a minute. So this is getting lined up right next to that score line here. And then I want this horizontal score line to line up. That'll make it so our bag is flat. Okay, and because I stacked these up, see how nice those match up? Mine didn't do that on my original when I did them separately, so that works a lot better if you can stack them so they're all lined up, and then just cut the zigzag once for both pieces, and they line up really good. Okay, now that I have these two pieces together, this is something else I learned when I made this. I originally did two pieces, like 4 1/4 inches long, and when I put it all together, it just didn't look as uniform as it could. So then I thought, oh, what I should have done, and I can tell this is going to work. Attach these together first like we just did. And then this is going to go across here. So this is an 8.5 by 1.5 inch piece. And because I don't want it to gap, I could use seal, and I'm afraid that it's going to start gapping on me. Like this might open up a little bit along here or something like that. So I think it's a little easier with this one to use multi-purpose glue again. So I'm actually not using any seal this time. I'm going to kind of go along here, along the edges. I like having my silicone mat, because if I do what I just did there, the glue is on my silicone mat. When it dries, I can just peel it right off. So I'm going to do the edges and then kind of go along this way. Let's bring this around here. I'm going to go along the edges again. And the other thing is, too, if I make one of the lines along the edges too thick, I can kind of smear it a little bit with a tip, but I can also turn it over and get some of the glue on here before I put it on, because I don't want the glue to ooze out. I think I'm doing good. Silicone mat craft mat is a must-have. I love this thing. Okay, so now bring in my bag again. Make sure I don't get it on that glue right there. Now I'm okay if the end doesn't go all the way under this tab here, because this tab right here is going to be hidden. So I definitely want to line it up here. I'm not putting it right in the center. I'm kind of bringing it down a little bit. Actually, what I'm doing, I'm going to center it from the holes to this score line here. That actually makes it a little easier lining up. Make sure it's straight, because I'm kind of looking down here, making sure that this, from the score line to the DSP, is pretty straight. That's looking pretty good. Put this down. You notice it's a little short, but like I said, this whole section here is going to be hidden, so that's okay. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and burnish these again, since the strip is not scored. It's a lot easier to do it now. Just keep going here. And if it starts to gap, like this one started to gap a little bit, I just put my bone folder on it. Or you can take your fingers and it'll smash back down again, and that glue will hold it really good. So that's why I use the glue. It works so much better. And then, oh yeah, we need to do this one too, don't we? Okay, now we've got all of those done. I am going to put some glue on this tab like I did on this first one over here. Nope, help if I opened it up. Get some glue on here. Once again, I'm not making it real thin. I'm pushing the tip of this down onto the cardstock. That kind of makes it so the glue doesn't come out too much also. Makes it a little thinner than if I had it up above it and put it, some might squirt out too much. So that kind of gives you a little more control too. Now I'm going to fold this down, bring this over, and having it flat like this, it actually lines up perfectly, like so. I'm going to kind of look at it too to make sure that the edge of this is lined up with that fold, that score line there. Okay. Then we can bring this up, and now we've got most of the bag done. Isn't that cool? See how easy that went together? I love that. Now I'm going to put these little tabs down here. I'm not going to worry about putting glue on here. You can if you want to, but I think it's going to be just fine just doing it like this, and then fold this one down. This is the only one I'm going to put glue on. Okay. So, and I'm only going to put it on this top part. I'm not going to go all the way to the fold, because as you can see, this this little flap here does not go all the way over here. So we'd end up having glue showing at the bottom here. And so if you put something in there, it's going to get stuck on the glue. We don't want that to happen. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm just going to put it more up here. That should be plenty right there. Bring this up. And you do need to put some pressure on this. Make sure everything is perpendicular. You don't want these to be slanted like that. Make sure that's all straight. Then you can take your bone folder, and once you've got it stuck pretty good, then put it down on your table and put pressure on it again, and that's going to make sure it's all glued together. Putting pressure on it and scraping it some is going to make that glue take hold. So now I know it's going to stick together. So there is the bag. Super simple. Okay, normally I would still decorate this flat. I got ahead of myself, but this is going to work, so I can show you how to do it. But definitely make sure you get the DSP on when it's flat before you put it together. But this is still going to work. I'm going to grab my little moon here, and I'm going to lay this right here for just a second, just to give me an idea where I want to stamp my bats. So I'm going to grab my bats using my Tuxedo Black and Manto. Since these are small, they're a lot easier to ink up, and I'm kind of twisting the ink because that inks it up a lot better. And I'm going to put these kind of up closer to the top on the left side of the circle. There we go. So now we have bats flying through our little moon there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put some glue on this. You can definitely use seal. But since I've been using glue so far, I'm just going to keep using my glue. I kind of like the bats being angled like this. So I'm going to put down here. I'm going to have the moon kind of line up at the bottom of my DSP. There we go. So that is all ready to go. This is going to be put on with dimensionals. So I'm going to grab my black dimensionals. I know this is white, but everything else is pretty dark. So I'm going to use my black ones. I think it works better that way. And let's see, how many do I think I need? You know what? That's probably good. I think I'll put one right here just to be on the safe side. If I put take your pick tool at an angle, it's a lot easier to scoop these up. I found this out. I didn't used to put this in at an angle, and it has worked so much better since I started doing that. And now I'm going to put my little house right here, kind of move it over a little bit. Okay. Push it down when I know I've got it good where I want it. Now I'm going to grab my little tombstones. I'm going to put a little glue on here. And I'm going to put it right here next to the haunted house. A haunted house has to have a graveyard next to it, doesn't it? So we'll put that there. And now we need to put our boo die cut on. Okay, I want to do one thing to my boo before I attach it. I didn't want it to just be a plain old black. It'll look good that way, but I'm going to use my Wink of Stella. Now, this is not available right now, and I'm not sure when it's going to come back in. They haven't given us a date yet. Hopefully you've got this, but like I said, it's still going to look fine if you don't use the Wink of Stella. But you shake it up. This one's starting to get a little dry. I probably should have grabbed my other one. Let me squeeze a little out here. Oh, yeah, it's definitely about gone. But I think I'm getting enough. Let me grab my other one here, because I know this one's working. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now it's going on better. I wasn't getting quite enough of the glitter on there. Now, this dries super fast. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a really nice glitter to it. I like that a lot. So now I'm going to bring my silicone mat back in and my little bag. I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to have this flat. This is the only thing I want to have popped up. This would, you could probably use the mini black dimensionals that are in the pack, but I didn't really want it popped up. I like just having the house popped up, but you can do whichever you want. And I also think it's easier with the glue, so that way I can kind of scoot it a little bit if I need to once I lay it down. I'm not going to worry about covering the whole thing up. That should be plenty of glue. I'm going to put a little bit more there on the boo at the top. Okay. I'm going to turn this around with it nice and glittery. Now this is going to be in my moon. Oops. There we go. Put my hand under here. So that's the way you decorate if you put the bag together first. See, that worked just fine. So there we go, but definitely get that DSP on while it's still flat. But you can definitely, it's a little easier to go ahead and decorate all of this and then put the bag together. I guess I was just anxious to put that bag together and show you how to do it. Okay, now that we have this decorated, we're going to make little ribbon handles for it. So I've got 2 pieces of the Starry Sky metallic woven ribbon. They're 12-inch pieces. And I've played around with this. First, I was going to put a knot on the end, and I could never get it big enough. It kept falling out because this is such thin ribbon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do what I did on my first one. Just put an end through here. And then I'm going to tie a little knot. Right here, it's going to be a double knot. Okay, so we've got that there. And like I said, make sure you have a tail. Well, I forgot I said that in the edited part. I took out me trying to do it the other way. Okay, now we have a nice double knot. Bring this around. I'm going to thread it from out here. It's a lot easier to go from the outside in. I found that out the hard way too. You get to learn from my mistakes. Well, I had to learn from my mistakes, so you don't have to make them. I made the mistakes, now you don't have to make them. And now I will do that. And if I can get a hold of it, make it that double knot. There we go, make it good and tight. And there's your handle. To be honest, I know I'm okay with those tails. If you want to trim them up, you can. I would not make them any shorter than that. Here's my knot. I cut it real close to the knot the first time I made it, and it slipped just with this being metallic. It's not going to slip having tails on there. And really, the tails kind of give it a good Halloween look, so I'm okay with that. You could also kind of move it around and hide them in the back if you want to, too. But I'm fine with that being like that. Turn this around, and we'll do the next handle. Okay, that is done. Now, this one is a little longer than I want it to be, so I am going to trim that just a little bit. But my knot's up here and the tail's like that, so I want to make sure I still have that tail. That way it doesn't come apart on me. And there we go. You know what? On the front, I think I am going to come down just a little bit, but I definitely wouldn't go any shorter than that. I still think that looks cute that way. So that is the treat bag that you can make with the Tricks and Treats bundle using that die. So it comes together really easy. If you don't want to use the metallic ribbon, I have to admit, it looks really neat though. It was easier the second time I started tying it. But if it gets to be too hard, just find some other ribbon that'll work good. You could use baker's twine or something like that, and it'll look just as good. Because we've even got, I just remembered, the Starry Sky baker's twine. It's got white wrapped in it, so it's like braided. You could definitely use that too, and that will look just as good if you have trouble with the metallic, because it is a little slippery, but it does look cool. I like it. Now I'm going to bring in my original, like I said earlier. With this, I did the 2 pieces of the DSP, and you can kind of see there's an edge here, and then there's another edge here, and they didn't line up. This is a little lower than this one. It doesn't look bad. I'm still going to use it. But that made it so much easier having one piece, putting the two pieces together. So it's a long line like you saw me do it earlier. And now it's nice and straight, and you don't have to worry about any pieces. Now this is pieced together, of course. One has to be like that since this is an end. But that just made it a lot easier. Everything is straight doing it that way. And then also with the scallop, actually, the scallop looks fine. A couple places it's not lining up real great. I don't know if you can see, there's a little zigzag here and one over here. These lined up perfectly since we stacked those up and die cut them. So it's just a little bit better alignment. But if you did it the first way, that's fine. Oh, I'm looking at my original. Glad I brought that in. have used this on all my Halloween stuff so far. They're so much fun. These are the glow in dark bats and ghosts, but it's not available right now, but I did just check, and they're they're planning on a shipment coming in the week of September 25th. So you should still be able to get those. So once they become available, I would get them right away because I can see them going out of stock again really quick. But let me grab my take your pick tool. And I find it's a little easier to use the pointed end, or you could use the little spatula, but I like using this. I would usually use my putty, but sometimes it's hard to get it to, when they're big like this, to come off that way. So I'm going to use my pointed part. That helps me be able to get that the adhesive that's on the back of the ghost up. You don't want to leave the adhesive here on the the cellophane backing. And I thought we'd just have a little ghost flying there on the house. Looks like he's going on the roof. So there you go. I told you I would make one of those treat bags with that die, and it is so cute. And if you don't want the zigzag, just don't do that, and you have a nice straight edge, and it'll just look like a regular treat bag. But I like that little addition of the zigzag border. Now, if you like this and had fun stamping with me and want to stamp with me again, make sure you click that subscribe button below. And when you see the bell icon pop up, select all. That way YouTube will notify you every time I upload a video and you won't miss anything. Now, if you live in the United States and do not have a demonstrator of your own, I would love to be yours. And what you can do, click that contact me link below, and I would be happy to send out the 2 current catalogs to you, your first set for free. I get these out of the way. I don't want to smash them. So this is the annual catalog that goes through the end of April. And this is the one that just started a couple days ago. This is our September to December mini catalog and has a lot of really nice holiday stuff inside it. Okay, here are the bags again, so you can see them one more time. Thank you again so much for watching. And if you have any questions, just comment below and I'll come back. I always come back and look at all the comments I get and reply back to them. I love to hear from you. If you just want to say you liked it, that's nice to hear from you. I always like to hear from everybody that watches my videos. And if you give me a like too, that helps me with YouTube. So I will see you again in the next video. Bye, guys.